Loving Father, we thank you for all your generosity and love toward us, our businesses, employees, everybody who work for us. Help us to be gracious and generous stewards of your gifts. Help us to fight our pride, unhealthy ambition, the sin of corruption, and help us to bring the culture of love, that we will be able to give a great example to the rest of the world as good Christian leaders. We pray also for those who have no jobs, that God may bless them. They will be able to find sufficient work that will help them to support their families. Loving and merciful Father, all we have is your abundant gift to us. Help us to be gracious for all your gifts. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen. Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome again. Thank you so much for coming out, and it's great to see. I've seen a lot of familiar faces. As you know, this is our third event. So, my name is Robert Bruns. I'm with NFA Wealth Management. My wife Melanie and I and our 3 children go to Epiphany of the Lord Catholic Church, and Lord with my good friend and buddy Joel Matthews with Turlington Reeves in Orlando, also a fellow parishioner of Epiphany, and Joe McLean, the director of 1430 Catholic Radiator of Houston. And started this, the idea and the goal was to bring a region of parishes together in community. We share faith together, and we thought it would be wonderful to be able to get to know each other and build a business community together, and do business with one another, and build relationships outside our parish walls. I can't tell you how instrumental Catholic radio has been in helping us do that. I think it's starting to take place in various regions now across the city. I believe we started here in the Katy, West Houston side. So it's having a tremendous positive experience for all of our parishes, and I hope it continues to grow. If you haven't tuned in to 1430, I hope you will. I hope you get a chance to listen to it. Joe does his Evangelion live show from 8 to 9 every Monday. There's a lot of incredible Catholic programming up here that I hope that you'll listen to, dial into, spread the word, tell your friends, family, and listen to and support 1430. They've been instrumental in helping us achieve this goal of bringing community together here in the Katy, West Houston area. So, thank you very much. I don't think it's difficult to introduce somebody that most everybody in the room knows, but I'll give it a try anyway. We're very fortunate this morning to have one of the most visible business leaders in Houston for many, many, many decades. We all know him all the way back to the Houston wrestling days for some of us. Don't want to date ourselves, but when we first saw him on the scene. So tremendous leader in the community, works as hard in his philanthropic endeavors as he does with his business. So we're happy that he's decided to agree to speak with us today. Has a very inspirational message. I think 35 years now, Jim, you and Linda just celebrating the 35th anniversary. Congratulations. On television, we're seeing a lot more of Laura and Liz. So, but I was assured that he's still working a lot of the man hours behind the scenes. So, but they've become instrumental in that as well. So, a graduate of Dallas Bishop High School, football star out there, University of Texas. I think he backed up Earl Campbell for a little while out there, UT. But without further ado, please welcome Jim McIngvale.
Thank you very much. I'm honored and thrilled to be here in Katy today. I wasn't expecting a crowd nearly this big. If I known this, I would have prepared the speech probably, but it's all right. I want to tell you about my background. The name of this speech is Keeping the Faith. I grew up in Dallas, Texas many years ago, and my mother was a Catholic. She's from Florence, Alabama. Her father, my grandfather, started the Catholic Church there many, many years ago. And she married my father, who was from Mississippi. They moved to Texas. My father was Methodist, and through my mother's work, she converted him to Catholicism. So I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and I went to St. Pius X Elementary School. And the school was supported by great men like my father, who made the school very vibrant, and a great priest named Father Weinzeppel, who had a profound effect on my life. And I'll never forget, one day I was in the 7th grade, and it was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the teacher's name was Sister Mary Regis. Funny how I remember those things 50 years later. And it was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. She came in the classroom. She was crying, very upset. We didn't know what the problem was, and so they let school out early on that Thursday afternoon. So the school had kindergarten through 7th grade, so kindergarten through 8th grade. The 8th grade was at the new high school, but still in the same elementary school. So we found out that the reason they let school out early that day was because President Kennedy had been shot in Dealey Plaza in downtown Dallas. So a bunch of the kids in the 1st and 2nd grade were excited because they were out of school early. They didn't understand what had happened. They were cheering and happy they were going to go home at 1 o'clock rather than 3 o'clock. And the New York Times wrote that the school children in Dallas were cheering because the president had been shot. That was not true, and they were cheering because they got out of school early. And I was a star football player that year, the 7th and 8th grade team. The reason I was a star football player is because my brother George had injured his knee. He was in the 8th grade and he wasn't playing that year. He was always a much better football player than I was. But he was injured, so I was a star football player, and I was looking forward to the banquet that coming Saturday night. I was going to get all these awards and whatever. I was excited about that. So it happened at 1 o'clock. My 7th and 8th grade football coach was a guy named Bob Barrett. He was also an FBI agent. One of the kids that played on the team, his name was Hosty. His father's name was Jim Hosty. He was an FBI agent also. And so Bob Barrett went into the Texas Theater to apprehend Lee Harvey Oswald, and Oswald put the gun in his stomach and pulled the trigger and misfired, and then Bob Barrett took the gun away from Lee Harvey Oswald and apprehended him. One of the girls in our class, her name was Kathy Driscoll. Her father was on PT 109 with Jack Kennedy when it went down in the Pacific. And he was standing 15 feet away from Jack Kennedy when they blew his head off in Dealey Plaza. It was a strange time. And when Jack Kennedy showed up in the ambulance at Parkland Hospital, there was a young intern up in the cafeteria at Parkland Hospital, which was the bin top of Dallas. And he was an emergency room intern in his final year of internship. And he heard a page, chief of surgery, report to the emergency room. And he'd never heard that page before. It was very unusual. So he said to his friend, there must be something going on down there. Let's go see what's happening. And he walked in the room, and as soon as he walked in the emergency room, he saw Jackie Kennedy in her pink dress with blood all over it. And they took him into where Jack Kennedy was. He looked at him and said, you can forget him, he's dead. And they took him over to John Connolly. And he stayed with John Connolly. Back then they didn't have ICU, and he stayed with John Connolly for 3 days and saved John Connolly's life. His name was James R. Red Duke. As all of you know, Dr. Duke passed away a couple months ago. Dr. Duke led a life built for others. He lived at that hospital most of his life because all his life was his patience. His life was his patience, his life were the interns, his life was medicine, his life was built around helping each other. And so the story goes. Then I went on to play football at the university after my father founded Bishop Lynch High School. I should go into that story. My father founded Bishop Lynch High School in Dallas. He and a group of other men from our church. He was the leader and the champion fundraiser. And we needed a Catholic high school in East Dallas, which was not the best part of Dallas. But my father had a lot of ambition and charisma, and he was full of faith, so he founded this high school against all odds. And he and these other men, Brother Weinsack, built that high school. And I'm proud to say that he founded that high school in 1965, and now it's the largest private high school in Texas. And just a booming place. When my father's funeral took place at Christ the King Catholic Church in North Houston about 4.5 years ago, there were 2 busloads of kids from Bishop Lynch who came down for his funeral. He was 90 years old. There was 800 people at the funeral. My father led a life built for others. My parents, by the way, would never in 1,000 years have thought of ever taking a vacation without us kids. Their life surrounded the kids, the neighborhood, the community. That's what they thought life was all about. They didn't understand the meaning of the word narcissism. And so I went on to play football at the University of Texas. I want to let everybody know here this morning, I was a big football player at the University of Texas. I only had 2 small problems. Number 1, I was too small. Number 2, I was too slow. And the position I played was called bench. My brother George was on the team. He was a year older than me. He was a good player. I did play football at the University of Texas, and it's very interesting to know that the University of Texas plays Notre Dame this year in the first game, and I hope the University of Texas wins by 100 points. I must admit, they say if you're going to make an omelet, you got to break some eggs. I was quite disappointed at Notre Dame when they gave the Catholic of the Year award to Joe Biden. And how many abortions have we had in the United States this year? I was with my nephew this past weekend. He went to West Point. He went to Memorial High School in West Point. He's still in the military after all these years. He works in the Pentagon. And he reminded me that the United States is the only country in the world that will not leave their wounded or dead soldiers on the battlefield. Only country in history. He told me a story about one time he was in this battle in Iraq, and they had a 16-hour gun battle. They'd been up 3 days. They went back to the base. The battle was over, and they were exhausted, hadn't slept for 72 hours, took all their gear off. We're going to sleep in these barracks they had, and they got another call that a helicopter had gone down with 2 pilots in it, and they had to go back and fight for another 6 hours to get those 2 dead pilots out of the helicopter. But the United States doesn't leave its men or women on the battlefield because of a respect for life. What happened? A respect for life. And so I thought I would talk today about a life built for others. A life built for others, and talk about some role models who have certainly helped form my life view and attitude. My parents are my ultimate role models. My mother's still alive, and she worked every day of her life, and now she's older and can't get around, and it's just very hard for her because she was always the giver and not the taker. Now she has to be taken care of. My parents, I'll never forget, my father sponsored the Little League baseball team, the league. He sponsored the entire league. And I remember one of the parents saying to him one time, the only reason you sponsor the league is because your boys play. And he said, no, I sponsor it because I'm here to help all these children. And that's what he did. We had a young man 2 years ahead of me, 1 year ahead of my brother George. He graduated from Bishop Lynch. He got a full scholarship to Dartmouth College. My father got him the scholarship to play football. And he didn't have any money. My father drove him from Dallas to Dartmouth several times to help him, and now the guy just retired as Vice President of Royal Bank of Canada. My father made a profound effect on so many people. When I was at his funeral, I thought I'd heard all the George McIngvale stories. Countless people came up who I didn't even know that he knew and told me how he had affected their life. He led a life built for others, and so did my mother. Many years ago, I came home one night and my wife, Linda, said, "There's something terribly wrong with our daughter, Elizabeth." I said, "Well, what is it? We get it fixed." He said she's got this weird disease where she washes her hands 600 or 800 times a day, and she does all these compulsions and rituals, and she's afraid to go back to the public high school she goes to, Westfield High School. She thinks it's contaminated, and she said, "I just don't know what I'm going to do." And Liz was going to a fancy private school up in the Woodlands, but they kicked her out and said she was too disruptive to her class. So she's going to Westfield, and she wouldn't go back to school. At that time, she was a very good gymnast with Bella Caroli, and she lost 30 pounds, but she didn't have to lose. And it got to where it took her 6 or 8 hours every day to take a shower and 6 hours to put on her clothes. And so we took Liz to several northeastern area psychiatrists, and they all said they'd never seen such a severe case before of obsessive compulsive disorder, Howard Hughes disease, and they said there was no hope for this child. Put her in an institution and get her out of our life. Well, you know, we're Catholic, and that's not part of the deal. We didn't buy into that. And so I searched, I talked to all my friends at the Texas Medical Center, and my wife searched the internet, and we found this place called the McIngvale Clinic in Topeka, Kansas, and Liz got worse and worse, and it was really difficult as Linda lived with Liz upstairs for 2 years trying to comfort her. As she screamed every night, "God, what did I do to deserve this? I wish I was dead." She begged her mother to kill her and her beloved sister to kill her every single night. It was a hell on earth. You see, when one family member has a mental illness, everybody has a mental illness. And so finally one day we took Liz up to the McIngvale Clinic in Kansas, and it was a horrific experience. That cold, snowy day in Kansas, putting her in that mental health facility in February. As we left that day, her little face was pushed up against the plate glass window, screaming at her mother, "Mom, please don't leave me here." Because she felt we were going to leave her in that mental institution for the rest of her life. She thought we considered her to be a burden or embarrassment to the family. We were going to get her out of the way. Nothing could have been further from the truth, but that was her perception, that was her reality. And she sat down on the bench and she was crying. This little girl came up, put her arm around her, and said, "Don't worry, I cried when I got here too." She said, "I'm going to leave in 4 weeks, I'm going to cry then because I don't want to leave this place to save my life." And so thanks to the good Lord, the doctors and nurses and McIngvale, Liz got better. And after about 8 weeks, she came home and re-enrolled at Westfield High School, and the wonderful teachers and coaches and principals there helped this child get through high school. Then she had another relapse a year later in McIngvale. At that time, and moved to Gessner Road here in Houston, and she went back to McIngvale for another 8 weeks, and then she got back out and began working with other people like herself who had mental illness. And she found out what her daddy already knew, that work is life's greatest therapy, and she found out by helping other people with mental illness, it made her better. And one of the proudest days of our lives is seeing this child walk across the stage at Westfield High School and get her diploma against all odds, and she graduated from high school. Then she tried college a couple times, and because of her mental illness, she couldn't get through college. You see, mental illness is a cruel disease. No one knows who it may strike or why. Mental illness never goes away, it lasts forever. My child will always be walking on the edge of the cliff. I cannot keep her from falling. She tried college twice and failed, and then her little friend Clarissa was in Chicago and said, "Why don't you come up here and try Loyola in Chicago?" So Liz went up there and tried Loyola in Chicago, and she enrolled in the School of Social Work because that kind of fit with the work she was doing in mental illness. And she met this wonderful teacher there who really sparked her interest in social work. And Liz asked her teacher one day, "Why are you a social worker?" She said, "Well, you know, my family is very well-to-do here in Chicago, and we're Catholics." And she said, every Thanksgiving and Christmas, my parents would take us to a soup kitchen and we would feed the homeless. She said, "Now, I always had big misgivings about why we had so much and these other people had so little. And she said that for that reason, when I got through high school, I went to social work, the School of Social Work in Loyola, Chicago, and I got my degree. She said throughout my undergraduate years, I would always write Mother Teresa. She said Mother Teresa would write me back, say, P.S., you really must come visit us. She said when I graduated from college, I wanted to get an MSW, Master's in Social Work, but I decided to take a year off. She said on a whim one day, I got on a plane and flew to Calcutta, India, not knowing if I would be able to find Mother Teresa. She said I slept on a pallet 8 feet away from Mother Teresa that night and every night for the next 2 years. She said Mother Teresa had one rule, and they went out there to pick up those dying people that had AIDS or leprosy or all these infectious diseases. The medical protocol was to wear gloves and masks and all these things, and Mother Teresa forbade all that because she wanted these people to experience the magic of human touch in the last days, last hours, last minutes of their lives, and nobody ever got sick. And she said one day Mother Teresa told her pack a change of clothes, we're going on an airplane, we're going to visit somewhere. She said the next thing she knew, they were walking through St. Peter's Basilica, and there was millions of people there in helicopters. They were wearing all this commotion, and Liz, the teacher, was a tall woman, Mother Teresa was a diminutive woman, and so they're walking through this basilica. And Mother Teresa said to Liz, the teacher, she says, what in the world's going on and why all the commotion here? She said, Mother Teresa, you don't understand, do you? She said, understand what? She said, Mother Teresa, they are here for you. A life built for others. Imagine that in this selfie-driven world, a life built for others. And thank you, Father, for what you do, living a life built for others. My daughter Liz, her mission is to save the world. She's a good kid. They said she never graduated from high school 2 years ago. She walked across the stage at U of H and got her PhD in social work. And now she's a full-time professor at Baylor. She still fights it mental illness every day. And about 8 years ago, she called me one day in a panic. She says, Dad, she says CPS is going to take Regina. You got to go get her. Regina was a child who was the niece of the Liz and Laura and James nanny when they were growing up. And Regina came from a very dysfunctional family, and her father went to penitentiary for life for murder, and her mother's a crack addict. And so CPS took Regina from her parents and gave her to the nanny. And then the nanny went off deep end, and so one day at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, CPS was coming to get Regina and put her in the system. And Liz was absolutely freaked out. She said, Dad, you can't let this happen because once she gets in there, she'll never get out. So I had done a speech for CPS 2 weeks before, and I called in there and I said, my name is McIngvale. Y'all got this child down there named Regina. I want to come pick her up. And the woman said, I don't know who you are or what you want, but that ain't going to happen. There went my rather large ego. So I said, let me talk to your supervisor. And I said, my name is McIngvale. I got the child down there named Regina. I'm going to pick her up. I don't know who you are or what you want. That ain't going to happen. And I'm really deflated. I said, and I'd done a speech 2 weeks before. I must not have had a very good speech. I said, let me talk to your supervisor. And I gave the same spiel. I said, oh yeah, Mac, it's you. Come get her. I said, well, what about those other 2 people? He said, don't worry about them. They just moved her to San Antonio last week. So I went and got little Regina. Little Regina was a hot mess. She ate ketchup for 2 years of her life. She didn't know if it was 3 in the morning or 3 at night. She can't tell time. She never will be able to tell time because that little part of her brain never formed. And she had a problem with healing things. And she disrupted the whole family because she was so starved for attention. Many of our friends said, give her back to CPS. Nope, not like Liz. That's not part of the deal. We took it on. We're going to finish it. And so we put little Regina in several schools, and they all kicked her out. She got expelled before we got her. She got expelled twice in the 1st grade. That's hard to do. But we took this task on. We're going to finish it. So we found this wonderful place called the Quincy School in the Chaddock School in Quincy, Illinois, and it's a school for troubled children like her. And we took her up there for 6 months and told her if she got better, we'd bring her back home, and we brought her back home. It was really way too early to bring her back home. We made a promise and we kept it. When we got her back home, we were trying to figure out a school to put Regina in, and that's almost impossible. At this time, she was 12 years old. So I had done some pro bono consulting work for Brookwood, which is a home for adults with severe learning disabilities in Brookshire, Texas. For my friend Yvonne Strait, she wanted to know how to sell more out of their retail shop, and I took these consultants that I worked with out there, and we had lunch several times with Yvonne. And Yvonne had started the school 50 years ago in Houston called Briarwood when her child had Down syndrome. And Briarwood was now a big blossoming school 50 years later. So I asked Yvonne if she could possibly get Regina an interview to go to Briarwood School. She said, I'm no longer the principal there, but I'm chairman emeritus, so I can get her an interview. So she got Regina an interview, and my wife Linda was all nervous about how Regina was going to act. Took her up to the school to do the interview. And Regina promptly, at 12 years old, threw a tantrum and kicked and screamed on the floor for about 45 minutes. And then Linda took her home. Linda was totally aghast. Yvonne called the next day and said, guess what? I said, what's that? She said, Regina got into Briarwood. I said, must have been her interviewing skills. And now Regina's 16 years old. And she's not out of the woods by a long shot, but she's a whole lot better. You know, it's kind of tough when the 16-year-old is with Liz, and then with my 4- and 5-year-old grandchildren. The 4- and 5-year-old grandchildren know how to do math, and Regina can't comprehend it. She said, you know, I must have missed that year of school. She did. And so I asked Yvonne Strait, who, by the way, is a saint of a woman. She's 86 years old. She runs Brookwood still. Brookwood has 115 full-time citizens there. Some of them had motorcycle accidents and car accidents, and they're brain impaired. Some of them had Down syndrome. Some of them had severe autism. But everybody at Brookwood has a full-time job because Yvonne, like me, thinks that work is life's greatest therapy. Work is the road to salvation. As people come in at Brookwood with their self-esteem down here, then they start working and their self-esteem goes through the roof. So I asked her, was Regina the toughest child they ever had there at Briarwood? She said, oh no, not by a long shot. I said, well, you must have had some doozies. She said, we did. I said, who was the toughest child you ever had at Briarwood? She said, it had to be this boy named Tracy. I said, tell me about Tracy. She said, Tracy was in one of the first classes we had at Briarwood, and we had him first through 4th grade. And he was incorrigible. He was horrible. He was always trying to disrupt every class and tear everything up. And he had this horrible habit of getting away from us, running out in the street and trying to get the cars to hit him. She said one day Tracy, they were renting 2 little classrooms in a Methodist church. He escaped the classroom and climbed on the top of the church, which was about 40 feet high. And he was up there taunting Yvonne. He was going to jump off the top of the roof and kill himself. And Yvonne's down there on the ground, on the grass, saying, Tracy, you get down here right now. And this standoff went on for about 30 minutes. And finally Tracy said in his Texas accent, he said, I'm going to come down there, but I got this stick in my hand and I'm going to stick it in your leg. So sure enough, he came down off the top of that church and went over there to where Yvonne was and took this sharp pointed stick and stuck it in her leg, and blood started gushing out of her leg. Tracy's laying on the ground there. He thinks it's funny. He's laughing. And Yvonne says, no matter what you do, I'm not going to kick you out of the school. I will straighten you out before you leave here. Because Yvonne leads a life built for others. Finally, Tracy got better, and after 4th grade, he went on to normal school, and Yvonne hadn't seen him since. About 15 years ago, Yvonne was at Briarwood visiting her friends. And this good-looking young man came running down the hallway saying, hey, Miss Strait, Miss Strait, Miss Strait, do you remember me? Do you remember me? She says, no, I really don't. I'm sorry, I don't remember you. He says, oh yeah, Miss Strait, you gotta remember me, I was your favorite student. She says, no, I really don't remember you. Who are you? She said, Miss Strait, it's me, Tracy. She said she thought she herself, my goodness, I'm surprised you're not dead. She said, well, Tracy, you look great. He said, thank you, Miss Tracy. He says, Tracy, where do you live? He said, I live in Los Angeles. And she thought to herself, that's not very good, the land of fruits and nuts. She said, Tracy, do you have a job? He said, oh yeah, Miss Tracy, I got a good job. She said, what do you do? He said, I'm on television. He said, have you ever seen my show? She said, no, I'm sorry, I don't watch much television. I've never seen your show. What show are you on? He said, I'm on Cheers. She said, what do you do? He said, I'm the bartender. His name is Woody Harrelson. And do you know his father assassinated the federal judge in
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And Woody, Yvonne called Woody, she's doing a book about her life. She's 86 years old now, has more energy than I ever thought I'd have. She called Woody's agent Tracy's agent about 6 or 8 months ago to see if he would give her permission to put a chapter in the book about him, and the agent said, I'll give him a message, but he'll probably never call you back. He called back in 5 minutes. Kept Yvonne on the phone for an hour and a half crying. 3 weeks ago, Woody Harrelson is now playing LBJ in the movie LBJ. 3 weeks ago, he went to Broward over here and stayed there for 2.5 hours talking to all the kids. And one of the kids asked him, what's your favorite role? He said, that's a good question. He said, my favorite role is being a father and raising my 3 children. And then Yvonne took Woody to Brookwood and walked him around and showed him all the citizens what they do at Brookwood, and Woody cried the whole time. And he told Yvonne when he left that she saved his life, and that was one of the best days of his life. Yvonne Strait, you see, leads a life built for others. My beloved brother George, who I told you about, was better looking than me, smarter than me, better football player than me, better athlete than me, and he certainly had more girlfriends than I ever did. He was very fortunate, and several years ago, he had congestive heart failure. He was down at the Texas Heart Institute, St. Louis Hospital, in the ICU awaiting a heart transplant. And my brother and I grew up in the same room for 18 years, and we were very close. He was in a coma, and I would go down there when I got off of work at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, sometimes midnight at 1 or 2 in the morning. I would kneel next to his bedside and pray for him, and even though he was in a coma, he knew I was there. We were just that close. And it would amaze me at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, then would walk this guy named Bud Frazier. Bud Frazier was trained by Michael DeBakey and Denton Cooley. Bud Frazier's done more heart transplants than anybody in the history of the world. Bud Frazier invented the LVAD. And he's a premier heart surgeon in the world. And he'd come in there at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning to check on my brother, and he was making rounds, taking care of his patients. And Bud Frazier is 70 plus years old. And I would say to him, I said, Dr. Frazier, what are you doing here at 1 or 2 in the morning? I said, what time do you operate in the morning? He said, I operate at 6. I said, do you ever sleep? He said, yeah, I'll go up in my office and sleep for 4 or 5 hours, I'll be good. I said, why do you do this? He said, my patients are my life. My patients are my life. And a couple of weeks after that, one of the cardiology students came into the furniture store to buy furniture, and he had his doctor coat on with all the Baylor College of Medicine and St. Louis Hospital stuff on it. So I said, do you know Bud Frazier? And he said, yeah, I sure do. I said, is he really as concerned about his patients as I think he is? He says, no, he's more concerned. He said, often he goes to these world famous cardiac seminars. He's always the keynote speaker. And he'll be in a place like Zurich, Switzerland. He does his speech, and everybody else goes out to a fancy restaurant or goes to a wonderful resort to play golf. Bud Frazier goes back to his room and Skypes with the doctors here in Houston because he's worried about his patients, a life built for others. And so I think at the end of the day, that's what we need to do, is live a life built for others. There's a guy named Clayton Christensen. I strongly suggest you business people watch his videos. He wrote a book called The Innovator's Dilemma, one of the most famous business books of all time. He's a professor of business at Harvard Business School. And he also wrote a wonderful article and did a wonderful speech called How Will Your Life Measure Up? Clayton Christensen is a devout Mormon. I was watching one of his videos the other day and it really touched me, so I thought I would finish by reading this video to you. And I want to congratulate you for this wonderful crowd you have here today. And we'd love to have you at brick and mortar one day at our Richmond store. Host you one morning. So this is the Clayton Christensen video I watched the other day. He said, some time ago I had a conversation with a Marxist economist from China. Marxist economist. He was coming to the end of a 2-year Fulbright fellowship here at Harvard in Boston. The United States paid for him to come to school in the United States for 2 years at Harvard. And he's a Chinese Marxist economist. He said in the last night, Clayton Christensen was his mentor while he was at Harvard. He said the last night before the guy and his wife flew back to China, he had him over for dinner. He said, I asked him if he learned anything that was surprising or unexpected while he was in the United States. Without any hesitation, he said, yeah. He said, I had no idea how critical religion is to the functioning of democracy. He said, I had no idea how critical religion is to the functioning of democracy. The reason democracy works, he said, is not because the government is designed to oversee what everybody does. But rather, democracy works because most people, most of the time, voluntarily choose to obey the law. The Chinese Marxist economist went on to say, and in your past, most Americans attended a church or synagogue every week. And they were taught there by preachers, priests, or rabbis they respected. My friend went on to say that Americans followed these rules because they had come to believe they were not just accountable to society, they had come to believe they were not just accountable to society, more importantly, they were accountable to God. My Chinese Marxist economist friend heightened a vague but nagging concern I've harbored inside. That as religion loses its influence over the lives of Americans, what will happen to our democracy? Where are the institutions that are going to teach the next generation of Americans that they too need to voluntarily obey the law? Because if you take away religion, you can't hire enough police. And so it's up to us. I remember that Catholic church I went to so many years in Dallas, and we walked out the church every day and had a sign on the back wall, love one another. So that's what we have to do, love one another, keep the faith, and spread the faith to make the country a better place. Thanks very much.